Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your interest in peer mentorship. It's something that the four of us are very passionate about and are excited to share with you all. I'm Manny Gonzalez. I am a postdoctoral researcher at Baruch College in the City University of New York in the psychology department. I also worked at CUNY Baccalaureate for Unique and Interdisciplinary Studies as a graduate fellow, which is the role that contributed to my participation in this session today. I'll let my co-presenters introduce themselves as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Mcpherson. I'm Senior Academic Advisor at CUNY Baccalaureate for Unique and Interdisciplinary Studies.
Hi, I'm Lucian Baskin. I'm a student in the Urban Education program at the CUNY Graduate Center and a graduate of the CUNY BA program, where I was a peer mentor and also an alum of the Futures Initiative undergraduate leadership program.
Hi, I'm Kia Thomas. I'm also a CUNY BA student. My major was Black Digital Studies. I'm also in the Future Initiatives program as a cohort currently, and it's great to see you all.
Awesome, and as you can probably tell, CUNY Baccalaureate for Unique and Interdisciplinary Studies is a mouthful, and CUNY BA is the shorthand for that. So we're using those two terms interchangeably here. So I'll give you guys an overview of today's talk. We'll start off with a brief talk, and then we'll have much more time dedicated to discussion. First off, we'll give you a definition of how we view peer mentorship and how we viewed it when we implemented it at CUNY BA. We'll share a case study on a peer mentor program that we rolled out at CUNY BA for undergraduate students. To do that, Kate will give an overview of kind of the broader context, what CUNY BA is and why we rolled out this peer mentor program. I'll talk through some of the development and implementation of that program so you have a sense of how we created an opportunity or a platform for peer mentorship at CUNY BA. And Lucian and Kia were both involved in the program as a peer mentor and a peer mentee. So they'll share their experiences within the program. And then after talking through that program, we'll open up the floor for a broader group discussion on peer mentorship, how we can best capitalize on it, what are some of the challenges and advantages of it, as well as to get any experiences you all have with peer mentorship as well. So to kick things off, I'll just start off with first saying what we mean by peer mentorship. So when we often think of mentorship, we usually think of some senior most person, like a faculty advisor, taking on a student or maybe a supervisor and a subordinate or something like that. We view peer mentorship as something more, peer mentorship in particular is something lateral. It's a developmental relationship. So the goal is really to view new skills or knowledge in two similarly skilled individuals, peers. In the case of CUNY BA, it's where an experienced student takes on a newer student under their wing, so to speak. So someone has more experiences and is sharing those experiences with someone else who is a student as well. And there are a number of benefits for peer mentorship, which is why we initially had an interest in in developing a peer mentor program at CUNY BA. For a peer mentor, there are opportunities for professional development experiences by mentoring somebody. There are also just intrinsic relational rewards. Oh, I might be echoing, so I'm going to switch on to headphones. Thank you all for the heads up. Thank you for listening. This is why I keep headphones on hand, just in case. Got it. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Thank you for the heads up. So regarding peer mentorship, there are a number of benefits for peer mentors and mentees, which is why we had wanted to implement a peer mentor program in the first place. For the peer mentor, there are a lot of professional development opportunities, a lot of experiences that they can get for career development purposes for mentoring someone. For the mentee, it's a great opportunity for guidance, to get support in a new environment. And for both the mentor and the mentee, it's a great opportunity for social connection, which is especially important right now, given the pandemic and how distant everybody is. Peer mentorship is particularly important today, I think. So I'll kick it over to Kate, who can describe kind of the broader context around this peer mentor program.
Yeah, so let me tell you a little bit more about CUNY BA. We are a university-wide individualized degree program based at the Graduate Center. We were established 50 years ago this week on February 22nd, 1971, to allow highly motivated students to work with a faculty mentor to create a sort of custom individualized area of concentration. We're a selective program. Our average student enters with about a 3.2 GPA and around 66 credits. Students in the program work with at least one full-time faculty mentor. They create what are typically individualized, interdisciplinary areas of concentration. They have a home campus, a home base within the CUNY system, but they utilize the e-permit system to make the entire university their campus. Students enjoy having a dedicated academic advisor at our program office or through our program office. And each of our students has at least one faculty mentor from one of the campuses who's in their field of study. I typically describe the program as something akin to a dual citizenship. So our students enjoy the full array of opportunities available to them at their home campus. And they get to add on all of the benefits of CUNY BA on top of that, which are these sort of small, we're a really small staff, we're a small program, so we're very personalized. You have a very personalized relationship with an advisor and a mentor. We have a variety of really nice scholarships available to students as well, and sort of, you know, just general individualized support. I think before passing this along to our students, I will also own the fact that, you know, by opening up the entire university to our students, we really amplify the opportunities that are available to them exponentially. But we also, in order to accomplish this, I think, sort of bring to light the pressure points in the CUNY system. And so the program does involve a lot of navigation. There is, you know, entailed in this second citizenship, a second bureaucracy. And so a lot of what we do in our office is support students in navigating this process and tracking their requirements. So I'll pause there and let Lucian and Kia take over.
I'll actually jump in at this point, and then Lucian and Kia will take over after I cover the program. But yeah, yay bureaucracy. As many of us are familiar with, bureaucracy is a lovely thing. So in light of some of the challenges that some students were facing in CUNY BA, we felt that a peer mentor program would actually help with addressing some of these challenges. As you can tell from Kate's description, there are a number of stakeholders that students are interfacing with. They have an academic advisor, they have a faculty mentor who's handling kind of their strictly academic-based progress. So we had to first think through, well, what is it that this mentor program is really going to uniquely contribute over and above advisors and faculty mentors? And so one major part of it is pretty much navigating the kind of unknown. There's a lot of uncertainty when you're coming into this kind of dual citizenship or quote unquote dual citizenship type role, and having the voice or experience or shared experiences of someone who's kind of been there and done that, it takes a lot of the anxiety out of the process and it gives you a bit more additional support as well. Additionally, because students are based at these different campuses, we thought that this program would be a great opportunity to foster some more connections within the program as well. So it was really a great opportunity to have a platform to build a stronger culture within CUNY BA among the students as well. So when thinking through how to develop the program, we started mainly from, we kind of worked backwards. We started from what are the goals we want to achieve? And then we said, how do we make a program that meets those goals? So we had three kinds of parties in mind when we thought through this program. For the mentees, we wanted to make sure that this program helps students by involving peer mentors, helping them navigate a lot of the formal and informal challenges of CUNY BA, as well as give them a source of support through their first year. For mentors, we wanted to be a platform to provide professional development and leadership opportunities, giving them experiences guiding another person, being able to help other people in the community. And for the broader CUNY BA community, we also saw an opportunity to foster greater community involvement among students, increase satisfaction, increase investment in CUNY BA, and to better enable CUNY BA student success both in the program and beyond. So the original program is actually based on something that I had helped implement. This was something that I built out in my time working for CUNY BA as a graduate fellow. And we had based it off of a peer mentorship program that I had previously helped to develop in a PhD program at Baruch College for IO psychology students. With that, of course, we had some different considerations because PhD students have very different needs than CUNY BA students. Whereas the PhD student version of it was mainly designed to help kind of socialize new PhDs, connect them to older students in the program. The CUNY BA, the addition that we rolled out in CUNY BA was much more focused on providing more concrete guidance to other students around navigating bureaucracy, fostering more connections for students who are not necessarily working in the same place, maybe even studying very different things. So these are some initial considerations that we made when creating this program. And the way that we thought through this program in terms of what peer mentors should do, we didn't want to be overly constrictive, but we didn't want to be overly lax. There's kind of this tension between giving too much free reign and not giving enough free reign. So we thought through this program in terms of what we call minimum expectations. At the very least, we want our mentors to be able to do these minimal things, which for us, we created as 3 formal check-ins with their mentees. So maybe like scheduling an hour to talk at 3 different checkpoints in the semester. And then 3 informal check-ins, like a quick email, a quick text, just to see how they're doing. That way, there's at least this kind of continual contact throughout the semester. Anything over and above that, we left to the peer mentor and peer mentee to decide on, just because every student's needs are going to differ. So we didn't want to be overly mandating in terms of what we wanted people to do. When we were implementing it, we paired people up on a number of factors. So we thought, what were some similar academic interests that they may have? Are they at similar or different campuses? Did mentees voice any specific needs that they had? So Kate mentioned an area of concentration, which is kind of akin to a more multidisciplinary major. If a student can have multiple areas of concentration, so if someone's like, I want to have multiple of these and I have no idea how to do it, we would try to pair them with someone who had that experience. So we would not only use this kind of more standardized pairing format, but also base it on some of the unique needs that the mentees were voicing when applying to the program. So the minimum expectations, those kind of match those checkpoints that I mentioned. We orient students at the beginning of the semester, and then we make sure that they're following through on these different checkpoints throughout the semester. Me as the person who was facilitating the program at the time, I would regularly check in to make sure that they also are not only that they're not kind of like left to their own devices. They feel like there's this also higher level support as well throughout the time of the program, as well as having some informal social events to also connect with other people in the program, not just with their immediate mentee or mentor. And one last thing I want to highlight about the program is we emphasize continuous assessment. So we assessed how students' experiences were at the very beginning of the program, at the very end of the program. We had focus groups after we first piloted the program to see how we can further improve it. The peer mentor program is still in use today, and it's something that's still growing, and we're still doing this continuous assessment to make sure that the program is continuing to meet students' needs, which I think is critical for the long-term success of peer mentor programs in general. So that being said, now you know kind of how we implemented, how we rolled it out. I'm happy to talk through more of the specifics during the discussion, but I'll hand it off to Kia and Lucian to talk about their experiences in the program.
Yeah, thanks for the overview and discussion of the implementation. So I guess Kia and I will sort of just cover a few points about our own experiences as students in the program. And yeah, I guess I'll start with this first point, and Kia, feel free to jump in at any point. But as Kate mentioned earlier, bureaucracy at CUNY is something that exists throughout the whole system, and it's really multiplied as you're navigating many different campuses through the not always super student-friendly e-permit process, trying to understand how the calendars and registrar's offices and different deadlines work with one another. So sort of one of the kind of, I think, most tangible parts of the program is that sort of mentors are able to offer some of that experience of just the really nuts and bolts side of navigating CUNY that a newer student in the program might find overwhelming. I know I certainly did when I was first kind of a second year student trying to take classes at Lehman College and Brooklyn College after doing my first year at Baruch and trying to understand how those campuses work and trying to navigate the e-permit system and finding it very frustrating. And those are the kinds of issues that you wouldn't really go to a faculty mentor for because it both feels like kind of small potatoes, but also because they just may not have that same kind of experience or know what you're talking about when you say e-permit. So that really kind of nuts and bolts things about e-permit, about knowing which scholarships to apply to, just reading over each other's scholarship applications or applications to different programs, like that second set of eyes. The goal was not really to replace academic advisors or faculty mentors, because, well, as students, we don't have the same level of expertise or experience. So it was really about what role can we fill that is something, a skill set that's unique to our experiences as students. Kia, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I agree to all of your points. I joined CUNY BA a little bit over half of my college career, a little over halfway into my college career. And so I kind of did know a little bit of the ins and outs of like financial aid, registrar. But with CUNY BA, you definitely did help me with things like the e-permits, securing faculty mentors, and just understanding how to navigate the system in general. I felt that I was a little intimidated at first with the e-permit system, and just knowing that I could go to any CUNY campus, it was kind of like, is this like a joke? Like, no, like we can actually do that. And you definitely gave me that access. And one thing that I thought was really valuable is that the CUNY BA application, or the CUNY BA peer mentor application, it really delved deep into what you wanted to do with your degree and what you were doing with your at CUNY BA. So when they matched me with Lucienne, we had a lot of the same academic interests and just interests in general. So that really helped in terms of like where I wanted to go within my college career specifically. He recommended a lot of different classes and conferences, books, teachers to me that I didn't know existed prior, but it really helped me along in my college career. I secured a few scholarships within CUNY BA. So I really felt like the peer mentorship was beneficial to me in that way. And yeah.
Yeah, I would also say, echoing a lot of what Kia said, sort of the community aspect. I think one of the really great things that Manny and the fellows did was really ask these deep questions and pair us in really interesting ways. So we were part of a smaller pilot group, and I felt very lucky that Kia and I were both part of that, given our shared academic interests and political interests, and also both being in the Futures Initiative program gave us another space to create community, and also beyond the individual peer mentor and peer mentee, having some events at CUNY BA where we were able to meet other mentors and mentees and share about our experiences. I think at CUNY often you're sort of in silos at individual campuses, and there's sort of like that reputation about being a commuter school where people come to school for class and then leave. Many people are working multiple jobs or raising children. And having that community space I found was really valuable. As Manny talked about earlier, there were sort of minimum expectations about sort of the more formal and informal forms of connection that you're supposed to build. And I found that like the kind of more informal part was the most meaningful to me in terms of just having someone who could bounce ideas off of, say, hey, this event looks great, want to go check out this book, hearing about different classes that Kia was taking, or an open mic poetry event that she was participating in, that sort of, yeah, really those community building connections I found to be like the most impactful part of the program for me. And it's something that CUNY BA and CUNY in general, I would say, has just phenomenal creative students, and being able to get to know them is one of the joys of being in the university.
Yeah, I definitely second that. I feel like through CUNY BA, I was able to develop a more like CUNY-wide community, as opposed to like I went to City College, so it was like City College community. I was in the Black Student Union, so Black Student Union community, but I was able to connect with a lot of different students and faculty across CUNY, which is like not the experience of everybody. So I felt like that was really valuable as well.
Yeah, I feel like unless you have anything else to add, I think we could kick it over back to you, Manny, to start off the discussion.
All right, thank you both. Yeah, I noticed during the program there were a lot of moments of delightful serendipity. There were some cases where I would get feedback like, yeah, we're actually like similar in way more ways than I thought, like in ways that we didn't realize that you might have known. They thought I had privy information that they might not have shared. Like two students who had like very, very similar backgrounds. I had no idea that Lucian and Kia also were both in FI. So that was also just one of those wonderful moments of serendipity. So there are all kinds of like very interesting, like almost random moments, like ways that students can connect to this type of program. And as you can see, I pulled together some lovely little pics that I may have gathered. That was Lucian and Kia shared this lovely picture down here, and this man here on the left, Moreno, is like our human selfie stick. So he takes all the pictures for us. So he sent me like a mob of photos. So at this point, I'll open up the session, the discussion to other folks. I think we would love to get other people's experiences with peer mentorship. And I guess just as kind of an opening question, just by either show of hands, or you can hit like if there's like a reaction button, who here has been involved in a peer mentor program before? Who here has been exposed to peer mentorship in the past? Okay, that's a thumbs up. Awesome. So I'd love to get you guys' thoughts. So what have been your experiences with peer mentorship? We've shared some of ours, and we're happy to kind of further elaborate. And if you have any specific questions about the program, we're happy to talk through those too. But let me first get a sense of what everyone's own experiences have been with peer mentorship. And to jump in, please also use the raise hand feature. Otherwise, we'll have the risk of like competing, dueling audio. I've got a request to repeat the question. So, who here has had experiences with peer mentorship in the past? And if you've had experiences with peer mentorship, we'd love to hear what those experiences have been, or how they've affected you.
So I see Teresa, please go ahead.
There was supposed to be a raised hand and it started as a clap, apparently.
That's fine.
So I've had multiple experiences. I actually had an opportunity to work with Manny as part of CUNY BA's Fellows program. But prior to that, I actually, when I first started in the doctoral program at John Jay College in the psychology doctoral program there, all of the incoming cohort was basically given a peer mentor off the bat. So somebody that we could meet with for that first semester. And it's really interesting to sort of hear, Lucian and Kia, your experience and sort of how well matched you were and how many similarities there were between you. With me and my peer mentor, we couldn't have been more different. We were actually like very, very different people. And even still, the experience was so positive and we developed a friendship out of it. We had different interests. We had very, very different backgrounds, very, very different personalities, and yet somehow that still worked. And I think part of that was that sort of just knowing that that person was volunteering their time to basically support you in that transition. So you already sort of come into it with this sort of positive feeling about what it's going to be like, which I think is really great. So overall, that experience was really good. I'd be curious to hear too, just in terms of your match, what you would advise maybe for mentors and mentees who don't seem as similar, like how can they sort of maximize the benefits that they get out of that relationship?
I think to maximize that, just build the relationship. I think often you might feel that like you gravitate towards spaces where maybe it's an academic department or a student club where people are thinking like you and have similar experiences and interests. And I think even though we were paired because of some similarities, I think had that not been the case, through kind of just getting to know one another, you can learn a lot about sort of the similarities between very different seemingly areas. Like maybe, I mean, I have a colleague who is paired with in a different peer mentorship program who is a pre-veterinary student and a biology major. And yet some of the same core kind of ethical questions that I was thinking about in sort of Black studies, women's studies, queer studies, education, where really there was so much overlap there. But we wouldn't have known unless we'd taken the time to build that relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I think that making those connections across disciplines, especially if you're not interested or even comfortable with that discipline, is really important in terms of expanding, I guess, your mindset and just the way that you relate to the world in general. So I think that would be really valuable. I've never had that experience in a peer mentorship, but yeah, I agree with the points that Lucian made as well.
I can chime in on that a bit too. I've so while I've developed peer mentor programs, I'm also I use the term chronic mentor. So I have like a chronic tendency to mentor people around me. So I became kind of the informal mentor, oftentimes for students in my PhD program, and it helped contribute to how I see mentorship, not necessarily as always something that's designed to address specific problems, but more as the mentor as a more general resource. So a lot of times I would get questions that I didn't personally know the answer to, but I might at least be able to help direct them to the right source. That way, just having someone as a broader perspective, and even just having someone as another set of eyes, having a fresh perspective on a challenge that you might be facing. Sometimes it helps to have someone with a very, very different perspective than you, because they might see things that you don't. So there can be a lot of beauty, I think, in having mentors from very disparate backgrounds or very disparate views. In a more formal program, I think it helps to also clarify that, or help the mentor also see that as well in kind of like the initial orientation stage of things. Like you're not just there to address like, here's how to e-permit. You might also get these other questions, and here are some ways that you might be able to approach it and still be able to help serve your mentee, even if you're not exactly like helping to put out the fire itself.
Yeah, I guess it would just jump in with one more quick point, which is that CUNY BA is a self-directed learning program. So even though there was a lot of overlap between what Kia and I studied, everyone is doing their own creative, unique course of study and bringing their own passions in. So it's like there are going to be significant differences between every student in the program by design.
So let me ask then, is anyone interested in like kind of implementing a peer mentor program, or is anyone interested in like having something like that at their institution? I guess in that case, so in that case, rather than focusing on like kind of the more procedural aspects of a peer mentor program, we can talk about how peer mentorship pans out more generally in institutions, which I'm sure most of you have had experiences, not even necessarily in like a formal role, but you've probably given advice to people that you've worked with, or have mentored people in your own experience, even in an informal capacity. So I guess I'll first raise a question of what do you all think are some of the major challenges, or what kind of challenges or advantages might there be to peer mentorship from your own experiences? So to get the conversation kicked off, I'm gonna surprise volunteer Lucian and Kia. I'm gonna ask y'all to share your experiences first off, and then that way we can hopefully get the conversation rolling a little bit more.
But Kia, I'll kick this one to you first.
Okay. So your question was, how was peer mentorship challenging?
Or like, were there any challenges that may have come up? Not even necessarily in like a general sense, but were there ever times where there might have been a challenge that came up?
Yeah, I feel like in our personal peer mentorship relationship, like sometimes there would be communication issues where like we would miss each other, or it would mostly be me missing Lucian's texts or emails. So sometimes there would be gaps where we didn't speak, but we would always reconnect. So I can't think of any major significant challenges within the CUNY BA peer mentorship. I'm sure other mentorships, maybe I don't know. I'm not sure. What about you, Lucian?
Yeah, I guess the two things I would sort of highlight, one would be like just kind of scheduling. I think Kia and I are both like busy people running around between different campuses, involved in the arts and political organizing. Like we said, we're both in the Futures Initiative program. And so that kind of robust engagement across different spaces, I think, is one of the things that made us such a good pair, but it also made it difficult to find time to meet, especially being based at different campuses for the most part, living in different boroughs. And I think that's sort of a reality of doing peer mentorship at a place like CUNY. And the other challenge was that we were in this program last year when the coronavirus shut down everything. So having to make that jump from being able to meet up in person to going all remote, and trying to also navigate and support each other as our classes turn remote as we navigate a pandemic. That was like a big curveball. And yeah, it was challenging to continue to be supportive through that time.
Response perfectly transitioned into a question we got in the chat, by the way. So we have the question of, due to the pandemic, were there any shifts or negotiations that we had to kind of navigate as mentors, mentees, organizers with the program. I can definitely talk to it from the facilitator side. Obviously, the pandemic was a major shock to most folks in CUNY and beyond. In terms of ensuring that the program was still functioning, okay, so first off, we wanted to make sure that we weren't necessarily, we wanted to make sure that we weren't necessarily overstepping. So obviously with the pandemic, everyone that brings out a whole new set of challenges. So we didn't want to say like, keep on mentoring, keep powering through. We first and foremost made sure that we communicated that if anyone's going through challenges, communicate that.
Oh, there's a question. There's a question. Don't worry. I'm just telling them to. Yeah.
Gotcha. So first off, making sure that, like, I think sometimes when we think of the mentor and the mentee, we think of it always as kind of like, we need to make sure the mentees get support, and sometimes the mentor kind of gets lost in that. So we wanted to make sure that the mentor's own needs were also being recognized in this case, not kind of like keep powering through. Like, we encourage mentors to continue supporting their mentees to the extent that they can, but to also make sure that they knew that if they were having challenges, that we were also here to support the facilitators, folks in CUNY BA more broadly. So relating to that, from a facilitator's perspective, it was not just making sure the program is going smoothly, but also I found myself shifting into more of a mentor, not peer, but mentor capacity, and just kind of emphasizing support as much as possible. We tried to have some opportunities for people to kind of continue connecting virtually, but obviously, given all the challenges that are brought about by the pandemic, it was initially challenging for students to do that. But I believe that the program is actually going pretty strong right now, even despite the pandemic. When we originally piloted it with, I think, 7 mentor and mentee pairs. Now we have the program's evolved so that almost every new student who enrolls in CUNY BA has a peer mentor, and it's been going successfully ever since.
Yeah, I was going to jump in and say very quickly, unfortunately, one of the downsides of the pandemic for us is that we've seen smaller admissions numbers. I mean, recruitment is harder. I think students have so many focuses outside of academics right now, just in terms of paying bills and, surviving literally. And so we were really able to take advantage of having a smaller incoming cohort this semester and offer all incoming students a peer mentor. And I think we're going to build on some of the community building and social networking that Manny tried to initiate shortly after we went remote. And I think we're all pretty overwhelmed. But I think we're really at the point where students are hungry for interaction and community and connection, and willing to do silly things like game nights and trivia nights in Zoom. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of that.
We have Kristen with a question.
Oh, well, I maybe just is just a follow up, but thank you for talking about shifts during the pandemic, because I also understand this program was new too. So maybe you could talk about that as someone that's sort of came into their position in 2019 and started new programs, and then they all turned into something else. I'm just sort of curious to hear, because I would think that this would have, especially now, it's just a high value or maybe different value. I don't know if you sort of see it in a different light. So if everyone could sort of, speak to those points, I'd be grateful. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, the pandemic hit right in the middle of the program. It was a year-long pilot. So we had one full semester of just non-pandemic program. And then we had the following semesters was when it hit. So we wound up shifting toward like maybe like a little bit past the midpoint of the program's life cycle. Yeah, I think we needed to make sure that there was as much support as possible for the students from an administrative standpoint. I believe students still had no problem connecting with each other. I think especially given the amount of social isolation that was brought about by the pandemic. The peer mentorship was actually an awesome resource to make sure students still had kind of a constant touch point. Even like just having an opportunity to sort of check in with other people, rather than just log on to Zoom to do your classes and then log off and then go about your at-home life. Like having another person to catch up with and be able to talk through things with, and even just having shared experiences. I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think that's one major reason why I think the program still continues to contribute value to CUNY BA, even though the program's still highly virtual. Though I'm assuming once the program becomes, once the pandemic subsides, hopefully sooner rather than later, we would probably bring back some more in-person elements of it, like a game night, like Kana mentioned. One of the mentors had mentioned to me that she like absolutely would love to just like get together and have everyone like play. I forget which board game she was obsessed with at the time, but she's like, we need a board game night, like something just to socialize and unwind together.
I'll highlight here also the fact that, you know, our student population is spread in normal times across not only the 5 boroughs, but in some cases beyond. And so geographically, we're really diffused across the New York metro area. And so in many ways, COVID has given us an incubator to sort of figure out how to do a better job of building a virtual community and connecting with our students virtually and serving them virtually. And so I think that we've been in the process of reassessing all aspects of the program, and how we will move into the in-person environment when that begins to come back. But I think that we'll likely retain a lot of the elements that we've developed, will remain virtual. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see how the hybrid nature of the Peer Mentor program looks next year, or whenever we return.
So I'll pose another discussion question. Oh, Teresa, you have your hand up?
I have another quick question for Kia, actually. Kia, so one of the things that we sort of noticed this year with the Peer Mentor program, and Kate had mentioned that we're really trying to make it so that every incoming student has a peer mentor. And Manny, I don't remember if you remember this being part of your experience as well, but sometimes it was almost easier to communicate to the mentors what the benefits would be to them than to give the mentees sort of tangible examples of how they would benefit. So for example, a mentor could put it on their resume, and a mentor would have this professional development opportunity, and a mentor could have volunteer hours potentially out of it. A mentee, we can sort of intuitively understand how it benefits the mentee, and you know, it's the additional support system. But what are some other ways that we can maybe communicate to students the value of coming into a new program and being assigned a peer mentor?
That's a really good question. When I signed up for the peer mentorship, I knew in my mind that I needed guidance navigating CUNY BA, and I wanted a little bit more support in my academic journey, and specifically what I was studying. So that was the immediate benefit for me. I didn't think anything else of it. I think a good way to promote it might be to maybe highlight the ways that a student can benefit from a peer mentorship, like you know, access to scholarships or conferences or resources that you would not otherwise have access to as somebody who's maybe like an underclassman or like just getting into college, doesn't really know anything about CUNY BA. That was the most valuable part for me. And I think that any student who loves learning and loves to be in college, they will appreciate that benefit of the mentorship. You know, CUNY BA is a program for students who really want to, I guess, like take something out of their education. So that would be my pitch, I guess.
Yeah, just jump in there also to say that I think one of the really cool things that's happened this year is the number of students who were mentees who then want to become mentors, and sort of to have that students who've had both parts of that experience, being able to share their knowledge and learn from older students in the program. It creates a really kind of dynamic community, I think.
Yeah, I can definitely, I agree 100%. I think there's I thought of it as kind of like a positive mentor spiral where like you get folks involved, they want to be mentors, and it expands and grows and grows and grows and grows. So you just get this kind of continual base of students who really want to, just based on their own experiences as a mentee or as a mentor, continue to give back to other students in the program. It's interesting because I remember at the CUNY BA orientation one year when I went and pitched the peer mentor program and to like new students, and a lot of them actually really wanted to be mentors, like right off the bat. They're like, "Can I be a mentor?" I'm like, "You just got here." So I think students have, or a lot of students tend to have this kind of intrinsic desire to be a mentor, even if there's not some sort of incentive. Like they didn't even know about like volunteer hours that could go from it, or there's no like pay for being a mentor in the program that we have. It's literally just you're doing it for the joy of mentoring. But we do try, at least I think throughout the semester, the pilot program, we did have some conversations about like, here's some ways that you can also make sure that you're getting some valuable career-related experience. This is a CV line or a resume line for you. Think about what skills you're using here in this kind of program and how you can kind of roll that forward into maybe graduate education, if you go into grad school or if you go into the professional world. So I think the desire is there, but just making sure students who want to be mentors are also aware of what opportunities they're getting outside of just mentoring people.
Something I've been talking to newer and incoming students about is thinking about being a mentee so that they can become a peer mentor later, because particularly right now, students who have their goals set on programs. So for example, who are pre-med, who are applying to programs that have an expectation of a certain amount of service and, community participation. There aren't the same opportunities right now. And so suddenly we have the attention of a whole subset of students who I think always identify themselves as being too busy to take advantage of this sort of opportunity. And so I'm really hoping that more and more that they'll see being a mentor as a mentee as a step to becoming a mentor. And again, those benefits are a little easier to promote. But so many students are concerned right now about what they'll put on a resume or a CV or a scholarship application or a grad school application, that it's really wonderful to be able to offer them something that's homegrown.
So I know we have like a little less than 10 minutes remaining. I'm happy to pose additional discussion questions, but I do want to see, does anyone have any specific questions? Any specific questions about peer mentorship that you'd like to share before I throw out discussion questions? So I'll share one then. One thing that I think would be very interesting to discuss would be what role peer mentorship can play in under-resourced institutions, where there's not as much formal support, or where there might be a greater need for that type of support. I'd love to get you guys' thoughts on that. I have some thoughts, but I don't want to like answer a question I just posed just right away. So I'll share first. And I'll also draw from some experiences that I know CUNY BA is currently implementing right now. and this is something that I did not have when I was an undergrad, and that I kind of wish I had. So this is almost more like me retrospecting as well. I think especially, so I'm first generation. So I went to college and had no real reference point in terms of like what I should be doing, where I should be going, what I should be trying to get, what experiences I should try to get under my belt. Thinking back, I think having a peer mentor or someone who's at least kind of navigated some of college life and is at least has maybe a bit more awareness of like what considerations you make for post-college life. That's something I think I wish I had had, because I think I would have had much more guidance in my first few years. I kind of took an extra year as an undergrad just because I found out what I wanted to do very, very late. But I think if I had the guidance of a peer mentor, I think I would have had less of those struggles. This is being an issue for other first generation students too. Like, if you don't have a reference point, what do you do? And I think a peer mentor can serve as a very valuable reference point. So I guess one last question I'll throw out, because I know we have 5 minutes left at this point. Also, so what are some of the benefits you think of getting grad students involved in developing and managing the program? I obviously can share my experience as well. I'll let other folks chime in first.
Can I answer that actually?
Go for it.
I think a benefit to having grad students in a program like this, it gives us a roadmap as to where we could potentially go. You know, not everybody goes to grad school, but it, I don't know, it opens the door. I feel like when you first get into college, and even as you go through college, grad school isn't really a topic that is just openly spoken about. Like, you'll see conferences about it or meetings about it, but your professors, your mentors, your advisors are not really going to talk to you about, like, you know, what are your plans in grad school? So I feel like that is a benefit to having grad students in the program. Like, it kind of normalizes grad school in a way and allows the mentee to look at it as something less intimidating than, you know, it sounds right now, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we've actually recently started getting grad students involved as peer mentors at CUNY BA. So having that extra, that new or different kind of perspective really is helpful. I kind of stumbled upon learning about grad school as an undergrad just by taking, like, I just took a course where the professor just wanted to make sure people knew about grad school, but not everybody stumbles upon those kinds of classes. So by having graduate student involvement, I think it's a great way to make sure there's a steady pipeline, I think, or at least better initial preparation for students, especially from underserved communities as well, to have more or greater readiness and greater preparedness for graduate studies, and even just beyond, outside of grad school as well, just more professional preparedness as well. Cool. So I know we're at like 3 minutes left. Let me ask, does anyone else have any other thoughts or anything else you'd like to share about peer mentorship? Anything you're like jonesing to know about? If not, I will assume that everyone here is now a peer mentorship expert. I will then say, oh, I just realized I should have unshared the screen. I forgot that I had the slides unshared shared the entire time. So I could have seen everyone's lovely faces. But since the slides are already up, let me actually at least put like a little thank you on behalf of all of us. If you are interested in or know some people who might be good candidates for CUNY BA, we're always recruiting for good, energized, and dedicated and driven students. Feel free to contact general at cunyba.cuny.edu or visit cunyba.cuny.edu. I will put my, I'll put my email in the chat in case anyone wants to get some specific information about peer mentorship. don't hesitate to reach out, and I can connect. I'll put my email, but I can connect you guys with any of the other panelists as well. Feel free to reach out. We're happy to share any materials we use to build the program and share any other experiences if you do want to implement something like our peer mentorship program. So again, thank you all so much. It's been great talking with you.